Today I'm talking about the TMNT Cowabunga Collection. I did not get any review codes for this game. I bought it with my own money. So a bunch of these are beat 'em ups, and I think a lot of people might look at a game like TMNT the arcade game and think that it's just a totally brain dead game where you just smash buttons and kill the same enemies over and over. But have you actually beaten it legitimately? I think these beat 'em ups have a lot more merit when you've struggled through one and completed it. It's like the old saying, don't judge a book by its cover. The Manhattan Project is a very tough game, and it requires a lot of strategy to defeat. So I don't think it's brain dead at all if you're doing it legitimately. If you're using God mode, then yeah, it's totally pointless. Sure, these might not have as much strategy as StarCraft or Into the Breach or something like that, but it does have some. Anyway, these games have rewind feature, which is activated by hitting L. I'd be okay with the rewind feature if it was somewhere in the options as a bonus thing that you could turn on if you were just like messing around. Kind of like messing around with a Game Genie or something, if you're just like goofing off. But it seems like they're trying to make this a staple of the gameplay, as though it's something that should be there all the time, which is gross. As it currently stands, I don't think there's a way to turn it off completely. Maybe I'm just missing that option or where it is, but I don't think it's there. If it is, let me know. My opinion of this release would be a lot higher if there was an on-off option for rewind. So if you play this version of these games, you have to be careful not to let your fingers ever slip to the L button or it'll totally ruin your entire playthrough. Until they decide to patch it and add that, it gives more weight to playing the original versions of these games on their original systems. I want to give you an example why the rewind feature is bad. Here's an example of where you have to get over a tight jump, right? Oh, you hit your head on the ceiling, but you can just rewind it. Oh, let me try again. Oh, you just hit your head on the ceiling. Oh, you can just retry again. Just keep retrying until you make it, and then it takes away all the challenge. No, the point is, if you fall, you have to go around. You have to have a form of punishment, or else the stakes won't be high, and then you're not going to care. If you can just make it every time, it's not going to matter to you. You won't remember this game 20 years later. That's why we're still talking about these games, because they're difficult, but when you actually progress through a difficult thing, you remember it and it sticks with you. If you can just rewind through it, it's not going to matter. So people make a big deal of how they took the Pizza Hut logos out of the games, and I think that's a really surface level thing to have on your mind, because these games have a lot more depth than just focusing on such an unimportant detail. How about discussing the strategies on how to get through the Technodrome's hardest hallway with one turtle? I find that far more interesting than focusing on a fucking sign. Or how about methods on how to beat Super Shredder in Manhattan Project? Very often I've heard people say that they don't have the time to learn advanced strategies like that, but I'm sure that they have the time to play around on social media or masturbate. No time to learn that you need to swap your turtles in the dam level, but plenty of time to check your Twitter and Facebook updates. Cool. So I bought the Switch version, and hitting R brings up the menu, and there's filters that you can apply. None of these filters actually resemble what playing these games on a real CRT is like to me, personally, so they're completely irrelevant. Under Enhancements, there's God mode, which I'm not a fan of personally. This is very similar to the white Tanuki suit in Super Mario 3D World. My opinion on that has not changed at all, by the way. And I know both of these things are optional, but I personally just would not include that. For me, they defeat the purpose of playing the game. That's my opinion though, and you're entitled to have yours. If you go to Enhancements by pressing the minus button on the Switch version, they have the option to remove slowdown. That's interesting. So if I did a complete playthrough of one of these with no slowdown option enabled, I would want to label the video as such. Similar to how people write down different high score categories for if they played on a real arcade machine versus playing in an emulator. I would count it as a different variant playthrough. So the really cool thing here is that they added a strategy guide that resembles Nintendo Power. I think it's a great idea, and more of these modern game releases of old games should include things like that. It's a very nice touch, and it's my favorite thing about this release. This collection is great because a whole new generation can try these games out, but you should try to keep in mind that this is not how retro games were intended to be displayed originally. My advice is, if you're younger, get this and enjoy it, and if you start to love these retro games enough, consider getting more into this hobby and getting yourself the proper equipment to play these games the right way someday. You'd be surprised how much better they look when displayed with the right equipment. I watched a video of a guy complaining that the frame rate isn't actually 100% stable, and he was pissed off because the game is $40 and you can emulate the game anyway. Now, I am not super sensitive to frame rates personally, unless they're excessively bad, but if frame rate is very important to you, you might want to keep that in mind. Another thing you might want to keep in mind is while this has a bunch of Turtle games on it, there are a lot of games that are missing, like Turtles in Time Reshelled, all the Commodore 64 Turtle games, TMNT on Amiga, TMNT on DOS, TMNT on the ZX Spectrum, TMNT Arcade on Amstrad, TMNT on Atari ST, and all the GameCube, PS2, and 360 games. So there's a bunch that are not here. Anyway, hi. So now I want to go through all the different games and just talk briefly about each one. See, the thing is, I'm not going to do a full playthrough right now because I've streamed so many Ninja Turtle games over the years. If you want to see full playthroughs of me playing these games, I've been doing that for years, so they're out there. So let's go through these so you can know what's actually on this. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. This is the arcade game. This game blew my mind. I saw it. I remember walking down the boardwalk and looking over into an arcade back in the day and seeing the machine, and I didn't know the machine existed. And my jaw dropped. But, love Turtles in Time, and the music for Turtles in Time is different than in the Super Nintendo version. So I like playing both versions. They're both cool and worth doing. The Super Nintendo version of the game is the one that I grew up with at home. Love it. I've streamed it a bunch. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighter. I remember doing a video with James years ago where it was watching the movie, the 1990 movie. Whoever won the battle of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters got to watch the good movie from 1990 and oh my god, that's one. If you have not seen that movie, that's a legitimately good movie. I'm not much of a fighting game guy, but I know that people love this game. They also have Hyperstone Heist, which is very cool. I played a Sega Genesis hack one time of Hyperstone Heist that added new moves and stuff, like Raphael's doing all kinds of crazy moves, and that I think it was Streets of Rage Hyperstone Heist or something. There's all kinds of hacks that people do of these games that are really interesting, too, and fan games and everything. There are many more Turtle games out there that, like I was just mentioning before, that, don't get mentioned. On top of the official games, of course, there's all kinds of fan games and stuff, Rescue Palooza and all that, which is fantastic. This is my favorite Turtle game, really. I think it's the most interesting of the Turtle games because it's so different. I have talked about this game endlessly. This is one of my big games. It's like Zelda 2, Batman, Turtles, Ninja Gaiden. This is one of my favorite games of all time. So you guys, if you need to hear me talk about that game, go watch the 100 billion hours of content of me talking about that game. But if there's anything you're gonna watch that you should watch my Raphael only run. I'm pretty proud of that. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. This one, it gets a little redundant with all the foot soldiers. I feel like, Manhattan Project and Turtles in Time do a better job of varying up the enemies. So that's the thing I don't like about it. But I do still like this game. It's tough to beat, and it's a classic. Then you have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Manhattan Project, which this game is super hard, and when people talk about hard NES games, this is usually not on the list, and I think this is an extremely, that's Fugitoid right there, I think this is an extremely difficult NES game, and that should be, maybe not in the top 10 or anything, but it's up there. It's a tough game, I think. So you know what? So is the Jetsons on NES too. This is what I was thinking of. This is the NES game. This is a very rare NES game. And I remember picking up an actual copy of that years ago. That's one that was that's been rare for a long time, even since the earlier 2000s. That one was rare. So that's I'm sure by now it's probably extremely rare. But, you know, people prefer the Super Nintendo version, not so much the NES version. You know, NES fighting games and whatever. And then we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Game Boy games, Fall of the Foot Clan. I like these games. I know they're in black and white and they're kind of primitive and whatever, but I think they're they really have their charm. The turtle sprites on screen are very big, and I remember that was the thing that stood out to me, because you have that little Game Boy screen, but you have like these sort of like large characters on screen. They're fun, well-programmed games, I think. This is the sequel. I have yet to do a stream of Back to the Sewers, and I have yet to do a stream of Radical Rescue, the third one. This is more like sort of Metroidvania. We could have the whole conversation about what's a Metroidvania and what's not a Metroidvania, whatever. But I need to stream the other Game Boy games at some point that I haven't gotten to. Then you have this is just straight up Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade. You know, I'd probably rather play this than the NES version of it, honestly. Like, that looks so much better. I love that. And the side art of that is really great on the actual arcade machine. But there you go. Those are all the games that are on it. So, you know, of stuff that's not included, you probably want to go out there and play that fan game, which is Rescue Palooza, which is absolutely excellent in my opinion. And then each one of these has different enhancements. So if you click it, you know, you might be able to put on God mode. And to me, God mode is not an enhancement. It's something I wouldn't even have. If you like it, that's fine. You can. I'm just getting. This is my video, so you came here to listen to me. This is just my opinion. If you like to use God mode, I'm not telling anybody what to do. If you're in your own home and you want to use God mode, by God, go ahead and use God mode. You came to watch my video, though, right? And get my opinion. So otherwise, why are you watching it? So I don't personally like that. I would never use it. Button dash, remove penalty bombs, nightmare mode. I might try nightmare mode someday. I think that's cool. I like upping the difficulty. Turbo mode, I don't know, all kinds of different stuff. And like I said, the different games have different options. Like, let's see what this has. This, you can do extra lives if you wanted to. What does the NES game have? This has the remove the slowdown. There you go. I would actually do a playthrough of this and removing the slowdown and removing the sprite flicker. I think that's a playthrough that I would do, just because what the hell? It's another reason for me to play that game that I love, you know. This has, again, the remove the slowdown, fancy jump kicks. It's like, you know, so there's all kinds of different stuff. But what I do want to look at is all, also, I do have to mention, it does have online, so that's pretty interesting. You know, back in the 80s, early 90s, I remember playing these NES games and being like, one friend's gonna be one turtle and I'm gonna be the other turtle, but there's 4 turtles. You always want to play as 4 turtles, and the NES 4 score, you couldn't use the NES 4 score to play the games, and you would think that out of all games it would work for that. It worked for Nightmare on Elm Street, right? They should have made one of those turtle games work 4-player, but they didn't do that, and that's a shame. But now you can play online with lots of people, so that's cool. You had to go to the arcade to play 4 people back then. So let's go into the Turtle Lair and see what's in here. Behind the scenes, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles NES behind the scenes. Look at this. Conceptual art. Now this is really neat. I didn't know until right now that this was on here. Look at this concept art for this. Hey, this is worth the price of admission right here. I'd love to see the same kind of thing for Ninja Gaiden. Make a Ninja Gaiden collection of the NES games and like the Ninja Gaiden Black and all that. Put them all together and do something like this for that series. This is awesome. Like, I would sit here for hours and look at this. I'm actually very excited about this. I knew that the Nintendo Power things were part of this, but actually, like, right here, this is worth the price of admission. Like, straight up, right there. Love this. What else? Now I want to see. Enemy designs? Look at this. Oh, dude, this is awesome. This is what the kind of stuff that people want to say. You know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see photos of... if such a thing even exists, but what was the actual computer that they made Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on NES with, or the arcade game, or Turtles in Time, or any of that? Like, what programs exactly, or are there behind the scenes photos of these people actually in these offices, like at their monitors, drawing the sprites and whatnot? Like, this is excellent that they have like these drawings and stuff, but on top of it, like for maybe some later collection or whatever, or another game, that's what I'd like to see, is like, the computer programs. So I've heard, they sometimes maybe they use the what is it, the X68000 or whatever. Like, I don't really know. I'd love to know more about all that, and that would be a great behind the scenes thing to have as well. So that's awesome. Behind the scenes right there is practically worth the price of admission. Then you have the music, and this is really cool too, because I saw this. This has I like how they put them all on like cassette tapes. It's very fitting. But then you click it, and you can go through all the music. And of course my favorite is they got Turtles in Time, and then there you go. There's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. My favorite track is that. I love that. That's one of my favorite tracks on the NES. Listen. One of my favorite tracks on the entire Nintendo Entertainment System. I love it. If they sold that right there, that cassette tape, I would buy that. They should put out a set of these cassette tapes, like for real, like a box set of the cassette tapes with that art and stuff, or something. Like I would totally purchase that. This is a collection that I think you should 100% buy. Just hope that they add an option to take off that rewind feature for the people that don't want to accidentally possibly hit the L button. That's it. That's all I've got to say. Maybe someday later I will stream the Game Boy games. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on stream. Thanks for watching.